Well, we all have kryptonite. And I think that's part of the undefined ways that we get, anxiety as leaders is we think we have to know it all and have it all. And there, no matter what, there will be a weakness. There will be a kryptonite to you. And it will behoove you to understand what type of leader you are so that you can be better prepared to handle that, like identify and understand that kryptonite and know how to support protect yourself from getting affected by that. It's a different way of looking at it, I guess. Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Hi, Reagan Robertson here with Everyday Practices, and I have a question for you. What type of boss are you? That's the question Dr. Chad Johnson and I unpack thanks to a white-hot paper Victoria Peterson dropped recently to help dentists and business owners discover what type of boss they are and how it can support and potentially hinder growth. Let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. It's Chad Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Reagan Robertson. Reagan, how you doing?
I'm doing really well today. I'm excited for our sit-down coffee chat we're going to have.
Yeah, our special guests are ourselves.
That's right.
Well, for the audience's sake, to kind of define what we're up to today, Victoria Peterson, who's co-founder of Productive Dentist Academy, started us off this week by releasing via email and on the website and everything like that a white paper, and its title is "What Kind of Boss Am I?" And so it got us thinking we should be kind of talking that through. So that's why we're recording today is talking about, like on the first page, leading change because it matters. And so, Reagan, when you read through this, what were some of your thoughts regarding the white paper that people are downloading left and right now?
Well, the biggest thing that really surfaced for me with this is I've been through leadership programs. I know a lot of dentists have been through leadership programs, and even going through those, year plus long programs, I still felt like I really carried a lot of the burden as a leader. And I understood that you can be a leader in any role. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily be a business owner, but I still shouldered a lot of being a leader. And what I've was really actually pretty mind-blowing to me is that self-identifying what type of leader you are, it showcased to me that no matter what leader you are, you need to have support. You will have blind spots no matter what.
Right. So in other words, it's rock, paper, scissors. Rock can beat, scissors, but not paper, and paper can beat, so each one has a strength, but then it also has a weakness. And it's okay to know your strengths, but it's also therefore when you know your strength, you can help define your weakness to be able to mitigate that risk.
I totally went down the superhero path with that. Yes, you just
Ooh.
captured that well.
Oh, okay. Tell me what you mean.
Well, we all have kryptonite. And I think that's part of the undefined ways that we get, anxiety as leaders is we think we have to know it all and have it all. And there, no matter what, there will be a weakness. There will be a kryptonite to you. And it will behoove you to understand what type of leader you are so that you can be better prepared to handle that, like identify and understand that kryptonite and know how to support protect yourself from getting affected by that. It's a different way of looking at it, I guess.
Right. So just to kind of, go through this, there were defined 4 different kinds of leader. And so let's call ourselves out of the leadership styles, the dentist will assume that you guys are the leader. Because I suppose in some, instances, you might be thinking, well, I actually don't lead it and stuff like that. But most people listening to this, you're the leader. So there are 4 different leadership styles. Reagan, fill us in on those 4.
There's the visionary.
Okay, visionary.
Improver. Analyst.
Okay.
And superstar.
Ooh, I see an acronym, VIAs. So if we're going down the
VIAs?
path, yes, if we're going down the path,
For the record, I hate acronyms. but let's go down the Via's
You
road.
mean you
I'm on
mean
board.
IHA? I hate acronyms.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So, visionary. And when I read this, I, seemed to think that that kind of was along my style. But, obviously with the word visionary, like, are you a dreamer? Do you see the bigger picture? That kind of stuff. And are you, creative to think about the bigger problems, the bigger solutions, and stuff like that. So the visionary. There's a blind side to that was highlighted in the paper. And Reagan, let's talk about that.
Well, I love visionaries. I've worked with a lot of visionaries, and it's a common. I think Victoria's descriptor in it was so appropriate because they are the big dreamers. They are like there's no rules for them. They color outside the lines. To them, there are no lines. And as an integrator myself, that's always been really fascinating to see a visionary because there are no rules. And so the blind side in that though is really it's an inability to understand details. And I don't know really if it's an inability to understand the details. I think of our brains like big computer systems, and I don't know that they take up the hard drive space to get the details. I think they know it's possible because they can dream it up. So the details are just what's left underneath it. And so that can be a potentially, we can see, right out of the gate where that would be a huge problem. If you think something is just easy, go do it, and you don't look behind the curtain and realize that there are 52 steps and, 3,000 worth of man hours to get that accomplished.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when I would buy a model airplane or a model car, and my mom totally believed in me. But one funny thing that she'll hate that I brought up, but she'd be like, "You're not gonna put that together," and because in essence, she'd be like, it's too detail oriented for you to care to get done, and I'll be like, no, I got this, and so I pop the pieces out and start kind of like looking at it and figuring out, okay, so these are the wings. All right, so here's the left wing, here's the right wing, sure, and this looks like the fuselage, the body of the plane. Okay, good, got it. Okay, so I probably need to glue this on here. About an hour into it, I'm just like, this is dumb, she's like, well, where are you on the instructions? I'm like, I haven't even seen the instructions,
You didn't
so
even
like,
start them because you just wanted to figure it out yourself.
yeah, I was just like, I mean, I don't want to be sequential. I think maybe that's the point is, that a visionary doesn't necessarily love getting sequential in making baby steps to make it happen. So I don't remember if it's the traction, EOS style, or if it's the others that talk about the visionary versus the integrator, but those are kind of the words that I'm thinking about where they don't necessarily want to integrate. Because I'm down with making it happen, but I don't stay laser focused on that.
Well, I think a good case study for that would definitely be our favorite pal, Elon Musk, who self identifies as an engineer, but taking his vision of going to Mars. I think her name's Gwen Shotwell. She's the president of SpaceX, and she has been touted as his secret weapon for a very long time. So, how do you take such an audacious goal as we're going to Mars and make that a reality when to us regular humans, it just seems like a really big, overwhelming goal to achieve. So I think supporting yourself, I think in this identification here, I think Victoria highlights really well what type of support you need. So you need someone that has a passion for creating those instruction sheets in a really clear manner so that the team can get aligned and make it a reality.
Well, it's funny because, like you said, audacious goal. If Elon said, and what's her name again?
Gwen Shotwell, I think I can look it up here. Yeah,
Okay.
Gwen Shotwell.
So what's interesting is Elon could say, "Hey, we're going to go to Mars," and someone else could say, "That's going to take a lot of fuel," and he'd be like, "Yeah, like we'll work it out." Like if that's your biggest but that's the dumbest thing. Like who cares? We're like hook more fuel onto the dumb thing. Let's go to Mars. So that's the visionary. Let's move on to the next one. Improver.
Well,
So
before we move to improver, I wanted to say, it was interesting that you just said that because I think visionaries have an abundant mindset, and I don't want to go past that really quick. If you're a visionary, you have this can do manifestation of resources, and that could be capital, that could be team, that could be whatever the manifestation is that you want. I think that that is something that is inherent to great visionary leaders. They just believe it's going to happen, and focus their energy towards that belief. And I think that belief sometimes really does it. It tells the story and it pulls people along with you that are willing to support your mission. So I think that's a very powerful superpower element to the visionary.
yeah, yeah, I think we were focusing on the downfall to that, but there definitely is an upside to having a visionary. I mean, really, a
Absolutely.
company isn't going to be the highest performing if they don't have someone working in the capacity and hopefully a natural capacity of being the visionary.
Agree, agree. So
All right then.
improvers, constant improvement over time. Is it ever perfect, Chad?
Well, it depends if that's if my hat is in that mindset at the moment. I suppose there are times when I'm an improver, but it's interesting, yeah, that Victoria said that their gift is to help others optimize their talents. Then the downside to an improver is fill
The
us in, Reagan.
perfectionism. It's the
Perfectionism.
tendency of it. I think it's the tendency of it's a balance. I would say it's a balance between never being done and always striving to be better. With if we're putting it under the context of improving teams specifically, it's keeping up that motivation and helping them understand what continual growth looks like. So it's a very delicate balance because you can motivate in the right way to get improved outcomes, or if you're not quite skilled at that, you could come across, I think, as extremely critical. And so I think I don't know if you may not have ever heard it, but I know that I've heard in different industries even, the time when a team member will say it's never good enough, nothing's ever good enough, or nothing's ever right, and it's that very downtrodden appearance. But if you frame it in the right way, so if an improver is in their highest and best, they motivate and pull through a team to be in that mindset of continuous improvement. It helps you stay competitive. It helps you be on top of your game. It helps you say, this is my best year ever, every year. I think Bruce would call it continuous growth year over year.
Well, it's tough because, for example, if your goal is to hit $100,000 in a month of whatever that goal is, I'm just making up a number, and so your team after 3 months finally hits that $100,000, and you go, great. So now we need to move to 120. And listen, sometimes that just needs to be done. Sometimes, I mean, it is what it is. But or hey, how last year we revamped our communication system? That was good enough. Now we need to take it to the next level, and that can be exhausting for some people. I think the blind side for the improver being perfectionism and being hypercritical. They almost take that as a compliment to themselves or whatever. They're just like, yeah, I'm just kind of nothing's ever good enough. And I think because that's what they value, that in their mind they think everyone else goes, wow, that's amazing. I bet you always deliver perfect then, but the key then that I think of to temper that with is excellence. Not necessarily saying that it has to be perfect, but having a little bit of tolerance. So that's where, like, even an engineer mind can come in and say, what is your tolerance for imperfection in the perfectionism? Because one example, Reagan, is people will say, when it becomes a purity question of, would you want one drop of poison in your water? And but it is the solution because we all have a tolerance. We think that the tap water, dentists know this, but the average population doesn't know that. It's just like your tap water doesn't mean sterile water. And there's a certain tolerance of colony forming units, CFUs, that are coming out of the tap water. So that's disgusting in one degree, that we allow for there to be a tolerance of excellent water coming out of the tap, but it's not perfect. And we understand what that means. So in other ways, we think to ourselves, okay, we have to get the incisal edges of 8 and 9 perfect. And it's like, well, perfect within what? Zero point 0.1 degrees or 1 degree or 0.01 degrees? Like at what is your tolerance for success in having that be looked at as, like when are you going to put down the handpiece and be done piddling with drilling on that tooth? Like how perfect is perfect, and then there come a point where you're messing it up because you're trying to make it too perfect. So
Wow, that's a really powerful visual. I can see that, and as an artist, how much do you fiddle with it? I appreciate that a lot,
when is it done?
until it's done.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to me the balance of it is pulling forward with a mission and feeling really solid in the mission, and I think that helps you drill down to get it drill down to where that
No.
tolerance sits. I know that's
At
terrible.
first,
Kashmir,
I
you can
didn't
edit
get
that
it.
out. Our producer can edit
No,
that out.
keep it in. I
I
just
think
let it hang too long. I was like,
I think yeah. So I would say if you're pulled forward with a mission, then you actually rally behind that improvement as a competitive advantage. I mean, that every pro athlete is constantly trying to improve their game, and they never stop. And Dr. Bruce Baird never stops. He always wants to know how he can improve dentistry and entrepreneurship, and he is pulled forward with that. So, yeah.
Well, so for example, we've given some ideas about perfectionism and whatnot. So the example that Victoria used in her white paper was asking your team to help you define what success looks like. When is this excellent? And you can, of course, have feed in, but if you allow for your team to have a little buy-in in it and ownership into explaining why, this metric is good enough for us to be done.
Oh,
I don't care.
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't care if it's the amount of time for a crown prep, or if it's like, well, as soon as it's smooth, or you get to run the CEREC over it and scan it, and then you can re-prep it if you find a spot, 2 times, but not 5 times, or defining those things to help them feel like there's parameters that
Or
are
or
put
how
up.
many referrals you get a month,
Yeah,
how many reviews you get. I think there's a lot of indicators in the practice that you can establish as ways of defining your tolerance.
yeah. When is good enough? But not just
Absolutely.
you defining it and saying I'll be the arbiter of that, but allowing your team to have control, because they lose control when it's never good enough.
That's right. Thanks for listening in. Join us next week as we go through the second portion of What Type of Boss Are You?
If you're losing sleep over your business and feel like you're already overloaded, but know your business needs attention, you just don't know how, when, or where to start, you're not alone. The reality is many dentists are overworking themselves, yet their practices are still struggling to be as productive as they should be. This is not sustainable, and there is a better way. That's why PDA has developed a transformative new program, Business Impact Foundations, to get you above the daily chaos and propel your business into an investment-grade practice. Using easy-to-implement proven methods combined with a unique learning atmosphere, you can activate a strategic growth plan in just 60 days. If you want to clarify your vision, align your team, and elevate the health of your community like never before, call us right now at 1-800-757-6077, extension 8, or head over to productivedentist.com/foundations to secure your spot. We have 2 sessions left this year, and each program is limited to only 20 doctors. Just for our listeners, use the code 2021IMPACT, that's 2021 IMPACT, all one word, for $700 off your tuition.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.